I'm a 24-year-old woman. I just finished my plane ride from New York to Miami for a solo mini vacation. When I arrived, I made my way to the carousel to retrieve my luggage in the airport terminal. I always disliked waiting so long for my bags. I decided to just sit and wait it out to avoid the crowd. As I was sitting in the terminal, I noticed my iPhone had a notification ping for 2 airdropped photos. One was a picture of me walking to my seat, and the other was me sitting down using my phone with the caption, "Where are you going?" I thought this was really bizarre and immediately looked in the direction the person could have taken the pictures from, but there were so many people around that it was pointless to try looking. I chalked it up to it being some annoying kid using their parents' phone. At this point, I had to use the restroom. If you know me, I'm a true germaphobe. I didn't want to bring my carry-on bag into the restroom with me, so I took a gamble and left it on the seat as I went to the restroom. It wasn't far away. I figured I'd be right back anyhow. Not even 3 minutes went by. I finished using the restroom, washed my hands, and returned to my seat. I noticed my luggage in the carousel because I had a pink teddy bear keychain attached to the zipper. I walked over to grab my luggage. As I was walking toward the exit to get a taxi, my iPhone notification pinged again. It was another airdropped picture. I opened it, and I felt my heart drop. It was a picture of me inside the restroom stall with the caption, "Do you feel better now? LOL." I was honestly so freaked out and disgusted that I didn't even want to report this to security. I just wanted to leave as quickly as possible. So many people were either hailing cabs or taking the bus, so I simply ordered an Uber from my phone. He showed up quickly, and I was just happy to be on the way to my hotel and away from whoever that sick person was. I got to my hotel and ordered some food. This, combined with the waterfront view from my room, took my mind off of the events that transpired earlier. I knew I had my day ahead of me tomorrow. It was getting late, so I decided to get some rest. I was abruptly woken up in the middle of the night by knocking at my room door. I walked to the door and asked, "Who is it?" A deep, raspy male voice responded, "Room service. We think you lost your ID." I was about to open the door, but something about this situation felt completely off. I told the supposed room service to hold on for a second. I went to search in my carry-on backpack and pulled out my wallet. As I opened my wallet, I found my ID. My stomach started to churn. That's not the worst part. I found an AirTag in my carry-on bag. The same person who airdropped me photos must have put it in my bag when I was in the airport restroom. As I came to this realization, it was almost as if he figured out what I noticed. He immediately started kicking the door loudly over and shouting obscenities. I yelled, "I'm calling the cops." Only then did I hear footsteps running and the staircase door slamming shut. I called the front desk and I let them know what was going on, but I refused to open my door unless I was sure it was the cops. When they reviewed the cameras, it was a tall, stocky man in black sweats, a black hoodie, black boots, and a pullover black mask. I made a police report and gave them all the evidence, including the airdropped photos and the AirTag. There wasn't much they could do, and I felt so uneasy. I ended up changing hotels, yet I still feel terrified to go anywhere. It's safe to say my vacation was ruined. I couldn't stop thinking about what would happen had I opened that door, or if the person was still following me somehow. I'm from a small town in Pennsylvania, and my high school had a field trip as it was nearing the end of the year. Lately, our school district has had a shortage of bus drivers, so we were lucky to have a driver take us to a water park in the Poconos. I packed my swimsuit and everything I needed for the trip. It would be a straightforward ride from our school to the water park. I was one of only 4 girls going on this trip. The rest of my classmates were guys. Fast forward to the next day when we boarded the bus. It was so hot outside that I couldn't wait until we got to the water park. The bus driver was new. None of us had ever met him before. He was pretty reserved and didn't speak much. During the ride, he made me feel quite uncomfortable. I was wearing sunglasses. He didn't know I noticed him constantly staring at me through the mirror above his head. I found this extremely creepy. He was an older guy, probably in his late 40s. I thought to myself, maybe he was just lonely. I didn't want to think too deeply about it. My friend Connie, visibly seeing the discomfort on my face, asked me if I was all right. I told her I would be okay and that I would tell her everything later. The driver was still persistently staring at me, to the point where he slightly swerved into the next lane, almost hitting a car to the left of us. Everyone in the bus held on as he abruptly braked. He had the nerve to blame the other car and asked us if we were all right. Eventually, we made it to the water park. He told us we could leave our backpacks on the bus and only carry what we needed to the water park. We all left our bags and only took our swimwear. When we got inside, I told Connie everything, and she looked shocked. She said that's just disgusting and that we should call the school to report him immediately. But I told her I didn't want to. We had already come so far, and I wouldn't want to inconvenience everyone with this. I went to change into my bathing suit. It was a good thing they had lockers that we could store our regular clothes in. Just as I was about to go to a water slide, I felt this cold feeling as if something was off. I looked around, and there he was again. The driver was no more than 30 feet away, just staring at me. Out of anger, I stormed over to him and asked him what the fuck his problem was. He apologized, saying he didn't mean any harm. Although he apologized, he had this really blank look on his face as he walked off and I went to meet my classmates. I ended up having such a good time that I felt like I was completely over the issue with the driver. After we were done, the bus took us back to school and my dad drove me back home. By the time I got in, I was exhausted from all the moving around. As I was changing my clothes for bed, I heard a tapping at my window. My bedroom window was near the rear door of our house. I walked over to pull the curtains, but I saw nothing. Maybe I was just imagining it, I thought. But then I heard the tapping noise again. This time, I actually opened the window slightly to see if I could hear anything. This was a big mistake on my part. Whoever was tapping my window grabbed my hand through the window and started pulling me as if they were trying to pull me through the window. Thinking fast and on my feet, I grabbed a nearby clothing iron and repeatedly smashed it into the person's hand. This was enough to make him retract his hand, allowing me to close my window. I heard my dad yelling and running downstairs from his room. He grabbed his Glock and went looking in the back of our house, but found no one. As I went to call 911 from my phone, there was an eerie message saying that an AirTag was detected near me. I began searching, and it hit me. The only place it could be was in my backpack. I emptied everything out, and there it was, between some papers. I remember the bus driver telling us to leave our backpacks on the bus. My heart was pounding out of my chest, but I had no proof that it was him. With only 2 weeks of school left, I never saw that bus driver again. Let this be a lesson for anyone out there. Don't leave your bags unattended. You never know who will follow you home.
Going shopping at Whole Foods Market was my place of peace, especially being a father of 2 boys. I pulled up and found a parking spot in the lot. While I was double-checking my grocery list and the notes on my phone, a heavy-set man with a dingy-looking mechanic uniform tapped me on my driver's side window. This was definitely out of the ordinary for a parking lot at Whole Foods. I rolled down the window, greeted him, and asked how I could help. He pointed to my rear door, saying he could remove the scratch and minor dent for a small fee. I kindly refused. He responded, saying I would get charged over $600 at a body shop just to repair my car. He claimed he would only charge me $320. Again, I kindly said no thank you, sir, and to have a nice day. This guy looked like something snapped in him, and his tone became more agitated. He said that he would bring down the price to $200, and that I wouldn't find this deal anywhere else. At this point, I was starting to get a little upset. I told him that the next time I have to say I am not interested, it wouldn't be nice. He screwed his face up at me and walked off angrily, mumbling to himself. I thought the whole situation was bizarre, but I wasn't going to let it ruin my mood or derail me from my peaceful shopping experience. I grabbed a shopping cart, and within about an hour, I finished shopping. I loaded my trunk up with my groceries, grabbing some snacks and drinks for my 45-minute drive back home. It was already dark outside by the time I was ready to pull away. About 10 minutes into my drive, I could have sworn a white van had been tailing me from a distance. It seemed to be following me in every lane I was going in. The van was about 800 feet behind me, but I still noticed him. I took the next exit, just to test out my theory, but it turns out I was wrong. It was all in my mind. Or at least, I thought so. At this point, I was driving through a forested rural area. All of a sudden, my tire pressure light lit up on my car's dashboard. The ride did feel a bit more bumpy than usual. I pulled over and got out to examine all my tires, and indeed, the rear passenger side tire was really low on air. I'm a member of AAA. The only downside is that I would have to wait for over an hour to get my tire repaired, not including them towing my car to the nearest repair shop. I started wondering how I could have a flat tire. As I was examining the tire, I noticed something was off. The valve stem cap, which is the screwable cap that covers the part of the tire you pump air into, looked crooked. I unscrewed it, and to my shock, someone put a pebble in the cap and screwed it back onto the tire. It would have lost air over time until it became flat. Then it hit me. My mind had already made the assumption that it was the sketchy alleged mechanic, but why would he do something so petty? I pulled out my iPhone to call AAA, but I noticed a notification banner that froze my entire body. The notification said that an AirTag was found moving with me. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, I saw headlights driving towards me from a distance. Whoever it was, they were slowing down and flashing me with their high beams. They got closer, and there it was. That same white van that had been following me on the highway. My hands were shaking, and my heart was pounding so hard that I swore someone else would be able to hear it. The person opened the van door and started walking towards me. This guy wasn't the mechanic from earlier, but he looked like trouble. He was so tall that he towered over me and had a tattoo on his face. He asked me if I needed help. I told him that I'd be alright, explaining to him that I had AAA and they were close by, even though I knew I hadn't even called them yet. He seemed to pick up on me being nervous and lying. He told me he had one of those electronic tire pumps and he would be right back. I knew I had to act quickly. It was now or never. He was halfway back to his van when someone busted out of the back door of the van and started running towards me with what appeared to be a large machete. Automatically, I recognized him to be the same mechanic from the Whole Foods parking lot. I frantically got in my car, started the engine in an attempt to peel off. He chopped the car with the machete as I was driving off. I saw them through my rearview mirror getting back into the van. Although it was dangerous, I immediately knew to turn off the lights. I had to be doing at least 70 miles per hour with a bad tire. It was a good thing this road had no streetlights. I took a risk by driving my car directly into the forest. I turned my car off and waited. Within about 45 seconds, I saw the van's lights coming down the road. I could feel the adrenaline coursing through my body. Somehow, they didn't see me, and I was relieved. They seemed to continue driving in pursuit of me. I drove back in the opposite direction with my tire rattling, and eventually made it to a gas station, where I called the police. The cops retrieved something that looked like a magnetic box attached to the undercarriage of my car, with an air tag in it. They said they would canvass the area and get back to me. I guess nothing turned up. I gave the description of the guys and what they were driving, but still no call back from the cops. This was probably my wake-up call to choose my words more wisely with people. You never know who you're dealing with.